Now it's my pleasure to welcome Steen to the microphone. Steen, all the way from Norway, CEO of Building Smart Norway.
Thank you. I see I have 10 minutes.
I don't think that's correct.
No, because I thought the program said 25 minutes, so
No,
that's what you probably get. I'll try to speak fast. So
Look.
22, 1, 20 minutes. Okay, this is there's a lot of road to cover here, so I will just crack on. Can we have the presentation on? Yeah. So my name is Steen Sunesen. I'm originally an architect. Now I'm CEO of Building Smart Norway. I've been that only for a little more than half a year. I'm also convening standardization committees within Open BIM, both in Sen in Europe and in Norway. And what's important here is that I recently worked as responsible for the Norwegian government clients' BIM development and requirement, because a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is actually based not just on mine, but also my experience here. So the society as such, we have two major challenges ahead of us. One thing is gentrification. We're getting older, so we need to do more with fewer hands. And I'm not sure that robots will do all the work. Mainly we need to do things smarter. The other thing is, of course, what we all know about climate change. We need to be lowering our footprint without lowering our quality of life. Again, we need to work smarter. So we need to make decisions for the future. So in order to do that, we need better information. And also we need to reuse information, because information has a cost. And right now we are establishing the same information over and over again. We need to stop that. And automation has to be reused in a way not just human interpretable, it has to be machine interpretable, so we can automate and thereby improve productivity. And what does digital mean? It means that it is machine interpretable. It means that we have to look ahead, and when I produce information now, it has to be reused again in maybe even 30 years from now. That means that we need to have standardized information. Another thing to work smarter, also we need new business models. And just to give you a few examples, what I mean by that is consultants, which they primarily sell hours, should focus more on selling values. The same with owners. Are they renting out buildings, especially for offices, or are they actually facilitating collaboration between people? And for example, contractors, are they just delivering buildings, or are they delivering buildings and information? Or maybe is it just the information? I think these are questions that we need to ask ourselves in the future to come. Why I'm talking about what BIM is, well, it's pretty obvious, but I hear today many think that it's the model. The model in itself do not really do anything value unless you use it in the right way. So it's the modeling, and it's a process utilizing a digital representation. And furthermore, building information modeling can use information that are both geometrical. I think we all know that, and this works pretty well. But there's another aspect to it as well. That's alphanumeric information. And I know alphanumeric sounds a bit awkward to say, but get used to it, because this is actually where a lot of the value is. It's the information that you can write with numbers and letters. And documentation, we haven't really started looking into that. Very important when you talk about digital twin. But this is something. But alphanumeric information is actually what I'm going to talk about a lot today. A few examples on why this alphanumeric information is important. Cost in a project is king. If you don't have control on your cost, you don't have control of anything in your project. This is a tool that can actually take the quantities and understand more or less directly what everything is in your model and make a cost estimation from get-go from the beginning and becoming more and more detailed. But it requires that information is structured uniformly across all projects. So if this software can be set up to interpret automatically the model. The same goes for life cycle analysis, calculating the footprint of all the materials. In this example here, you see that we had a very good structured model. So we had 85% automatically identified. So we only have 15% work of the total work in order to actually map this. But again, it requires information, structured uniformly across all projects. The same with reporting, for example, dashboard, that makes information in the information model accessible for the project management and actually everybody in the project and stakeholders. But once again, requires structured information. I think you get the point now, but I'm not letting you off the hook. This is an example I had from my previous employer, from the facility manager. They had a very small task. It took them about 20 minutes to half an hour to do, but it took them half a day to find the information in order to do the task. So that's why we need to link the information with a model, and the model is a very intuitive way to find information because it geometrically represents the building, and again, it requires structured information. We have a contractor as a member in Building Smart Norway who are actually monitoring all their project in one dashboard based on issue management and checklist. They also actually want to manage it based on their information and properties, but they can't do that as of yet because the information is not structured correctly. So this is actually, they're complaining about exactly the same. And it's not because we don't have standards. There are many standards, but the industry is not using them or not sufficiently. And that's why what we asked when before I started in Building Smart Norway, what can we do as a client? We can't take responsibility for everything, but we can do something. So we need to make it easier to deliver on OpenBIM. First of all, we really have to not be too creative and ask for more information that we really require. Then we have to also follow up on requirements. If we set up a lot of requirements, but not check if they deliver, we're actually not helping those who are serious and actually want to deliver. We have to use the same existing standards across all clients, and that means we need harmonization. And that is what this project is about. And then the clicker doesn't. Okay, clicker doesn't work. So this project actually started in Norway, but actually when we talked about, we have a lot of contact with other Building Smart chapters in the Nordics, and they thought it was a good idea. Also because architects, engineers, contractors, software vendors actually operate on Nordic level. When we mentioned this project in a recently established grouping of European chapters, actually a lot of the European chapters wanted to join us. So now it is actually a European project, also including Romania. And for those of you who do not know about this European OpenBIM Forum, it's very newly established, half a year from now, was formally established to accelerate the use of OpenBIM in Europe and also on policy level and trying to influence the EU Parliament and Commission on policies. So this is quite interesting, and this is a project under the umbrella of the European OpenBIM Forum. So what is it that we want to harmonize? First of all, we want to make sure that we're using the same normative standards, because if we don't use the same normative standards, it doesn't really help us. Then we can look at very basic practices. We've been using BIM for the last 10 years. I've been using for 20 years. And actually, we also see that for small and medium-sized enterprises who do not have a lot of knowledge, we can actually propose a minimal set of requirements. They don't have to be BIM expert, they have to trust us. And if they're using this, requiring this, and follow up in this project, they will succeed, and they will have much better control of their projects than otherwise. So for the normative standards, and thank you so much for the background, both from Emma Huber and from Aiden, for telling us about the OpenBIM workflow, and also other standards like ISO 19650, because those are central. We actually made this mapping of existing requirements and found out that there are no conflicting normative standards from the different countries in Europe. Most countries actually are observing the same international standards together with the Building Smart International OpenBIM workflow. So this is kind of the first kind of confirmation that we can do this. One of the things that we have this common data environment. The common data environment, you know what it is. It's kind of the system you set up of solutions so you can manage information, first of all in projects, but also in the life cycle of a construction. And this is from the ISO 9650, but we don't really say so much about these white boxes. What does it take to go from one level to another of information? I think we can help the uptake of the principles of the ISO 9650 to actually operationalize it and describe common practices for how to actually work with this. The same for the tendering process. What does it look like? This is according, again, to ISO 9650, and also a guideline for part 2 of the ISO 9650 called CEN-TR 17654, explaining that in order to the client, or the appointing party as it's called, need to specify their requirements. And then the potential appointed party, lead appointed party, need to have a tender response in the form of a BIM execution plan. So the exchange information requirement, which is the requirement, and the BIM execution plan is how are you going to deliver on the requirement. Those two documents are really important. And first of all, the exchange information requirement does not come out of the blue. It actually have different sources. It sources from the line organization, from the facility manager, and from the project organization, and also from the project management in itself. Then you can aggregate the exchange information requirement. This is one way of showing actually a pre-filled in with the minimal requirement, and for exchange information requirement, you see a few columns that are not filled in, about the information standards and so on, level of information need. I will come back to that. And the BIM execution plan can respond on the same line how they are going to deliver on the requirement. So this is a very low practice, low threshold way of approaching this. Another thing we can standardize or harmonize is practice about level of information need. Level of information need is when you go deep down and specify the information. And before you actually make the information requirement, you also have to specify why, what is the purpose of the information requirement, when it's going to be delivered, who is going to deliver it, and what. And the what is easy when we're talking about buildings and when we talk about building smart, because we are using the same breakdown structure as IFC, of course. But the other, the why, this is actually where we want to propose some standardized minimum requirement standard use cases. These are the use cases we think is the minimum requirement in the project. If you're performing these and requiring information according to these, you will get good control in your project. And this is feasible for a lot of companies, also the SMEs. Yes, this is, I think we'll skip this, but this is actually the simplest way the prerequisite can be filled out. There are some requirements for geometrical information. It can be simplified as this. I think we need to do a little more than that, also on object class level, but it can actually be this very simple. And for the alphanumeric information, instead of have pages and pages and documents and databases, this is it. It can be done this easy. And I think when we're doing this easy, it's much easier to communicate to the industry. It's easier to communicate to the software vendors that they have to make sure that there is easy IFC export, at least for those few properties and attributes. And of course, when we're going to deliver this in this project, we will of course also make an IDS, so you can automatically check your models according to these requirements. And just, this is, I think it's one of the final ones. What I've showed you now is specifically for building. The overall practice is about tendering procedures and common data environment. They're overall for both infrastructure and building. The minimum requirements is specifically for buildings. Doesn't mean that we ignore infrastructure. We just haven't reached to establish a work group who can give us input for the same minimum requirements. For example, for roads, could be municipalities, smaller road builders. So that may lag a bit behind, but it's coming. And I think it's important that we try to harmonize also across the, there is a gap or divide between the infrastructure world and the building world. We need to harmonize that as well. So the project here that I'm talking about is running until the Building Smart International Summits. Those are our deadlines. We had a meeting in at the Marrakesh meeting here in October, and the first deliverable will be in March 2025 for the next summit when it's in Singapore. And we have already done the mapping of existing requirement. We also come quite far with the minimum requirements, and now we are building templates and guidance so everybody can use this. But the work doesn't stop there. That's important. We don't just deliver it and expect everything to be to function. This is kind of a prototype that we're building, and what's important the next stage is the chapter implementation, because this is generic on European level. Now we need every chapter to adopt it on their own level with their own classification systems and needs and so on, but as true to the harmonization ideals as possible. And of course, we hope to get pilot projects. If that take 1 year or 2, I don't know, but at some stage we can also talk about integration, training, technical implementation, and also certification. That could be an extension to the certification program within Building Smart International. But that's further down the road. It has a lot of potential, but let's see how it goes first. So I was also asked to say something about our Norwegian, because we actually have a project to build a national framework in Norway. And of course, we're not doing something completely on our own. We use exactly the same that we are agreeing upon on European level. So this is simply just an national implementation that we're doing in Norway. We do a little more, but the requirement or the scope of this project that I just talked about, the European project, encapsulates the client's requirements, their EIR, and also the tendering process, including the BIM execution plan and the use of these documents. And then also how to requirements for common data environment. We go a bit further and say that we also want to give guidance to project execution based on the same minimum requirements. We also are looking into an industry that is not so big today, but I expect actually to be very big if you want to digitally manage the entire building portfolio in Norway. I'm not saying that we have to, but if we are going to, digitalization of all construction will be a major industry in the future. And we are looking into that and give guidance. We have a lot of experience already. And then, of course, looking into the facility management based on including information models. So we're going a bit further, but are completely aligned with the European harmonization project. I think that was the last page. Thank you.
Thank you. Steen, thank you so much for the presentation, and of course I want to touch up on the European Open BIM Forum and the work that's been done there. Romania is actually in the steering committee, in the rotating steering committee in the Open BIM Forum, and I'm really excited about these templates. We'll talk about them at the end of this panel during the discussion.